This is my advice for anyone feeling lonely right now. Loneliness is complicated. When you look at the definition of loneliness, you get something along the lines of feeling sad when you're socially isolated. And when I think about the most lonely times in my life, it wasn't because of social isolation at all. In fact, some of the most loneliest parts of my life were periods when I surrounded myself with people constantly. It's also complicated because there is no cure for it, and there's no single remedy, because loneliness for everyone is so different. Loneliness to me can sometimes look like being in a room filled with people whose companionship I crave, yet still feel unfulfilled. Loneliness to me might even look like not being able to be alone for fear that my thoughts could potentially destroy me. Loneliness to me is feelings of anxiety, social awkwardness, depression, obsessive and compulsive thoughts. For some of you, you might be able to relate to some of these feelings of loneliness, and for others, they might look different. So this is my advice. If you are someone struggling with loneliness right now. But before we get into today's video, I just want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Bridget, and I am a confidence coach for introverted women. I also have a free Facebook group that I'm going to be linking in the description below. But if you're someone who's into personal development, you want to change your mindset, have more confidence, more fulfilled relationships, ways to ease your anxiety and stress, make sure you come check out our group. I'm going to leave it linked in the description below. Also, don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful or useful. Comment below what you want to see more from me, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. So let's get into the video. The time in my life where I felt the most lonely was at a point where I was starting to get out of my comfort zone, when I was starting to finally release some of that anxiety I was feeling around being in a social setting. I thought surrounding myself with people, trying to figure out who I was the answer. But during this time, I found that the majority of what I was doing was just distracting myself and running away from feelings of fear, rejection, anger, resentment, and sadness. I would surround myself with people so that I didn't have to experience some of the thoughts that I was having. I was distracting myself with drinking too much and neglecting some of the things that I had to get done, and neglecting myself too. It was a time in my life where I was also really confused about where I was going and who I was. And maybe that's the same for some of you guys who are experiencing loneliness or who've experienced loneliness before. My guess is that most of you have experienced loneliness at some point in your life. I wasn't able to notice it at the time, but looking back on this part of my life, I noticed something very unique about what I was going through at the time. And this realization was that the reason I hated being alone, and the reason I felt so lonely even when I was surrounded by people, was that I didn't like to be alone. I didn't like myself enough to feel like I was fulfilled, to feel like I was good enough. And so even though I was surrounded by people, I never felt like my identity, my personality, who I was trying to be was enough for the people. I felt lonely because I didn't feel like I was anybody at all. And it's a strange feeling to describe, but it wasn't until I started understanding myself and getting to know myself that I actually enjoyed being alone and being in the company of myself. Now, this realization didn't happen overnight. In fact, it took a couple years for me to finally start figuring things out. And only recently did I really have this discovery that this is why I felt so lonely. So in order to get to know myself, I had to do a few things. I had to address some of those thoughts and feelings that I was having at the time. I had to acknowledge the way I was feeling, take care of myself in a way that I needed to be taken care of. I needed to reflect, focus, and get clear about what I was doing with my life and ultimately where I wanted my life to go. I had to find things that I actually enjoyed doing. I had to figure out and even change some of my beliefs and values that I had. It's almost like when you go to date a person, right? How do you get to know them? What do you do with them? Some of these things is what I had to do with myself. I had to get to know myself in order to want to be with myself and feel like the company of myself was good enough. I started meditating more, reading more, journaling more, laughing more, dancing more, picking up some old hobbies that I used to love doing. So my advice for someone who's feeling lonely right now is take a good look at your life right now. Do you know who you are? Do you like who you are? Have you ever taken time in your life to get to know yourself fully? And if you haven't, I really urge that you do. Before I end today's video, I just wanted to quickly announce that spots for my free consult are open. So if you are someone who is introverted, socially anxious, and want to have more confidence and more fulfilled relationships in your life, I really urge you to check out that consult. I'm gonna leave the link in the description below. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I know it was super short, but I hope you found it helpful and useful in any way. And I'll see you next time.